All right, so today we're going to talk about a story of huge ambition and a whole lot of waiting. For years, the community of this really unique online world, Entropia Universe, has been on the edge of their seats for a promised upgrade to Unreal Engine 5. It's a journey that kicked off with this grand, epic vision, but somewhere along the way, it's kind of drifted into a sea of silence and a seriously divided player base. So let's unpack this odyssey. So it all started back in August 2022 with this super exciting call to adventure from Mindark, the game's developer. The project was pretty perfectly named Odyssey, and this quote, it just completely captured that initial hype, all the hopes of a really dedicated community ready to set sail for, a new digital frontier. Now, just in case you're not familiar with it, Entropia Universe is not your typical online game. Not at all. It's a sci-fi MMO that's been around for over 2 decades. But here's the twist. It has a real cash economy. The in-game currency, the PED, has a fixed exchange rate to the US dollar. And what that means is players are investing and earning actual, real money. So the stakes for any big change to the game, they're incredibly high. Okay, so back in August 2022, Mindark didn't just announce some simple update. No, they made a monumental promise. We're talking a complete, ground-up overhaul of their decades-old game. This was a pledge to not just modernize it, but to completely reinvent the whole thing. And look, this was way more than just a fresh coat of paint. The Odyssey project was a promise for a total migration. This meant changing up core systems like hunting and crafting, moving every single player-owned item, and a lot of those have significant real-world value, and basically rebuilding the entire universe from scratch in Unreal Engine 5, a huge undertaking. What's really fascinating here is the vision behind the project. See, Mindark wasn't just promising a prettier game. They laid out this incredibly ambitious, almost philosophical goal for what this new universe would be, tackling some of the really deep challenges in modern game design. First off, they laid out their core philosophy. They wanted to preserve the soul of Entropia while still making it feel totally new. They promised to improve the core features for everybody, old and new players alike, while keeping the stuff that really defines the game, the sci-fi setting, the single-shard universe, and its classless system. They also pitched a complete redesign of the world itself, calling it a holistic world. The idea was that through systemic design, different parts of the game would actually react to each other. So imagine if you hunted a certain creature almost to extinction. Maybe a rare plant that it eats starts to flourish, and that plant could then be used for some powerful new crafting recipe. This would create a living world where players could discover these unspoken rules, and gameplay could just emerge, organically. And the sheer technical scale of this thing was just immense. We're not just talking about the game you play on your computer. This meant a completely new backend, a universe that could scale dynamically, and a brand new art style of stylized realism. This was a total technological reimagining, the exact kind of massive legacy project that has, let's be honest, completely sunk many other ambitious games. But after that huge wave of initial hype, after all those detailed plans, a totally different phase of the Odyssey began, the long wait. The communication that started with such a bang just kind of faded out. A great silence fell over the whole thing. This timeline really puts that wait into perspective. It was announced in August 2022, with a target of about a year for a playable build. Okay, by December 2023, with that target long gone, players started asking, hey, what's going on? Then, fast forward to October 2025, a new dev block drops, but it's all about updates for the old engine, with not a single mention of the UE5 project. At all. And you can just feel the community's growing anxiety in this forum post from a user named Legends in December 2023. I mean, more than a year after the announcement, the lack of news was leading to this real worry that the whole thing might have just been quietly canceled. And that frustration just boiled over in the comments of that October 2025 dev blog. As Mindark was detailing all these new features for the current engine, players like Angel02 Mercer were asking the really obvious question, what about Unreal Engine 5? Focusing on the old system seemed to completely contradict the future they were promised, and the community needed answers. So, this long silence, combined with all the active development on the old engine, it didn't just create frustration. It drove a wedge right down the middle of the game's dedicated and heavily invested player base. It led to a major split. Yeah, by late 2025, the lack of news had totally fractured the community. It wasn't just about being patient anymore. It kicked off this fundamental debate about the entire future of their universe. Like, what was the right way to even move forward? And this created what players called the Great Debate. On one side, you had people saying, continue the Odyssey. They insisted it was about more than just graphics. The old Cry engine was holding the game back, and they saw UE5 as absolutely necessary for survival. Then, on the other side, you had the abandoned ship camp. They basically argued the hype was dead, and MindArc should just stop the UE5 project, fix the current game's bugs and economy, convince the company just couldn't handle such a massive task. To give you a taste of the pro UE5 side, here's a blunt but very clear take from forum user Chairman Edgewise. For players like them, the current game's engine is just a dead end. The upgrade isn't a want, it's an absolute need for the game to have any kind of future. But the other side is just as passionate. Here's user JJO with a more cynical view, suggesting the whole push for UE5 is just a misguided hope for a hype price pusher for players looking to cash out. For this camp, the answer is simple. The game doesn't need Unreal. Use the resources to fix the game we actually have right now. And that brings our story to today, with the whole project and its community just kind of suspended in this state of deep uncertainty. It feels like the ship has left the harbor, but the destination is absolutely nowhere in sight. As of right now, MindArc is still releasing updates and new content for the current engine. But the elephant in the room, that massive universe-redefining Odyssey project, is still completely unaddressed, and it's left players stuck in this limbo between the world they have and the one they were promised. It has now been over 3 years since that Odyssey was first announced. 3 years of waiting, of wondering, and of debating the very future of their digital home. And that leads us to the final critical question. After this multi-year journey that began with so much promise, will Entropia's players ever actually reach their promised world? Or are they just going to be left stranded at sea, watching their old ones slowly fade away?